Some centuries ago, this land was given the name of Al-Andalus. Its inhabitants came from North Africa and the Middle East. At times, they lived in peace with the Christians of the Iberian Peninsula, and others at war. They built castles and palaces, cultivating the land in a way no one had ever done before, as well as turning the cities into centers of learning. For 800 years, Al-Andalus was part of one of the most brilliant civilizations in the history of mankind. As a result of this, we have been left with an impressive heritage at many levels: monumental, artistic, poetic, literary works, and superior knowledge in the sciences and law. We can feel the wake beating within us like a life force in the language, music, customs, aromas, flavors, the water, gardens, plants, arts and crafts, gastronomy, everything that makes us what we are. That is what the Andalusi legacy is. There's no doubt that the two most important metropolitan areas in Al-Andalus were Cordoba and Granada, capitals of the Umayyad Caliphate and the Nasrid Kingdom. The route connecting them was frequented as much by armies as by traders and men of the arts and sciences who were traveling in search of knowledge. For centuries, the line that has linked the towns surrounding this route was also the borderline between the Christian kingdoms, which goes to explain the mosaic of watchtowers and castles along the way. Today, following this route is like taking a walk into our very exciting past. The itinerary begins on the banks of the Guadalquivir, on the streets of Cordoba. In the era of the Caliphate, Muslims, Jews, Mozarabs, Slavs, and Berbers lived side by side, and for the most part, they all attended their mosques, churches, and synagogues in peace. Here, they found space and inspiration, with Cordoba soon becoming an important forum for the arts and sciences. The mosque, later turned into a cathedral, is the best preserved memory of the splendor of the Caliphate. A few kilometers away, you can find Madinat al-Zahara, which is what is left of the splendid palace built by Abderrahman III, demonstrating the power and splendor of the Cordoba Umayyads. The route turns inland to the Cordoba countryside, fertile land spotted with green and white farm estates. Brilliant towns at the foot of their splendid castles, such as Montemayor. Others, like Aguilar de la Frontera, show what they were in their very name: imposing fortified strongholds, watchful for centuries. Sunny streets containing stately homes and convents that open out into beautiful gardens of Arabic inspiration. For the traveler, a break. For the people from here, a tradition and an art. Wines patiently matured, to be savored unhurriedly, the taste of life. Following in the footsteps of the Andalusi heritage allows us to discover traces of other cultures, as demonstrated by the numerous Roman, Iberian, or Phoenician remains. And above all, the splendid Christian monuments, churches, palace houses, sculptures, pictures, farm estates, and oil mills, etc. The strategic importance of the towns gave them esteem in different eras, and their names fill the history books. Espejo, Castro del Rio, Baena, Zueros, Luque. Impregnable watchtowers which today look out over a sea of olive trees. It was present here before the Arab citadels, even before the Roman wells or Iberian hill forts. The olive has belonged to this land since time immemorial, a serene witness and source of an inexhaustible wealth, olive oil. The natural park of the Subetic Mountains offers several alternatives for those keen on walking and for nature lovers. In the foothills of the southern mountains, a great deal of thousand-year-old remains can be found. In Lucena, Cabra, and Priego de Córdoba, traces of the first man have been discovered, as well as Paleolithic remains of great value. These three towns were outstanding settlements of the Roman colony and important strategic centers in Al-Andalus. Cabra Castle conserves part of the Arab Medina that it contained. But it is not necessary to climb up all the watchtowers in order to follow the Andalusi footsteps. There are some traditions that have been inherited directly from the Arabs and are practiced nowadays as they were 1,000 years ago. All along the route, workshops can be found. Wrought iron, leather, pottery, wood, palm, tin. Craftwork becomes art in the Cordoba tradition of the silversmith's trade. As the route approaches Granada, the medieval defensive remains begin to stand out more. The towns in this area of Iberian Roman origins were witness to constant treaties between Muslims and Christians, at any one time passing from the hands of one to the other. Alcaudete, Castillo de Locubin, and Alcalá la Real were strongholds which served as the last bastions in the defense of Granada, as well as the residence for Christian señores and kings during the harassing of the Nasrid capital. There were also long periods of peace when the earth was cultivated with the utmost care. The Arabs were great agriculturists and engineers. We can still appreciate remains of their irrigation canal system, which is the basis of today's irrigation system, permitting this fertile land to become one giant garden. Hospitality is law in the desert. Our Andalusi predecessors taught us to open our doors to the visitor and receive him with the best our land has to offer. Honey, cinnamon, cloves, turmeric, sesame, wallet. This route also spelt a trip for the taste buds. From Cordoba to Granada, every gastronomic pause transports us to the flavors and aromas of the other side of the straits. Moclin, after the fall of Alcalá la Real, was the last defensive bastion in Granada prior to the Catholic monarch's definitive entry. We are reminded of this by its castle and numerous watchtowers. From here to Granada, hilly country of Mediterranean forests and natural balconies look towards Sierra Nevada. The route crosses a series of towns surrounded by splendid orchards that supplied water and fruits to what was the capital of the Nasrid kingdom. Scattered around the plain, the farmhouses remind us of the Arab orchards which the people from Granada retired to in order to enjoy the mountain freshness. The Caliphate route is now isolated from the great transportation networks. The journey gives you a wonderful feeling of calm when walking around little frequented places. And its natural environment offers a good alternative to those open-air lovers. To top it off, the spectacular peaks of Sierra Nevada, the white crown of the city of Granada. Arriving in Granada, the traveler has the feeling of entering a different world. The history we have in common with our African neighbors flows out through our skin and memories. The bustling of the souks, the luxurious vegetation, twilight in the Albayzin, the light and the air. On approaching the Alhambra, a feeling of vague nostalgia invades your heart. The beauty hits the senses, and the inevitable question is posed. If it is beautiful now, with all the traces left by years of war and abandonment, what was it like then when Granada was king?